All right, so I'm trying this. I haven't done this for a while, so I'm just checking in to see how everybody's been. I know it's been kind of a crazy last couple months. This week was definitely something different, but I just want to do like a wellness check. So I have Facebook and I have YouTube, so pardon me if I'm like not looking directly in, but I wanted to like get into etiquette. And in this day and age, do we have to redefine what we look at as considered etiquette? I know it's not drinking with your pinky extended or curtsying and bowing and things like that, but aren't there just things that we should probably still be looking at to say, like, I don't know, common courtesies? Let me see. It's telling me that my frame rate over here is not that good. I got somebody over here. How you doing? So we're talking about etiquette, and I'm just trying to get an idea of what is our new standard of just being polite. Because I think that there's a lot of it that has kind of gone out the window, and I don't know if those are just old school values and things that we don't care to have anymore, or if it's something in society where there's just been shifts because we've seen a lot of movements, whether it was back in the day, the ERA movement, whether it's been something like Black Lives Matter, whether like any of these things, does that shift how we should be just treating each other on a regular basis in an everyday fashion? There's things, something as simple as uh, door opening. And it used to be that you would be given a thank you in return. And that kind of thing doesn't happen anymore. And I think a lot of it is we're on phones. We don't look out for one another and we don't have to protect one another, but just the simple courtesies. I think sometimes those things have just gone away. So, how do we redefine etiquette? And if we were to put a list to it, what are some things that we would need to do? Uh, Sorry for Facebook, but it keeps telling me too low FPS. The current frame rate is too low. Please set the frame rate to 50. I'm not sure where that takes place, and that's okay. Um, but what we'd like to do is be able to come to some sort of agreement where we can look at people and say, yeah, I have an idea of what it is just to be polite to somebody. So, for instance, I think like just walking with your phone when you've made the attempt to like cross the street or cross in front of somebody in a car, when you're still walking at a pace looking down at your phone, I find that there's some etiquette to that that should be shifted. If you know that you're taking the lead and somebody's given that to you, give them the courtesy to say, I will make some sort of effort. Now, I know that there's going to be a lot of times where we're going to look at something and say, um, hey, they might have a disability or there's something that you don't see. But I think a lot of times we just know inherently that sometimes people are just not in that frame of mind to think beyond themselves or what's on their phone. And yes, you might have bad news, you might have something going on, but that 10, 20 seconds, I mean, really to be looking out as well. Not only for the other person, but how about yourself? You don't know what you're stepping into. Is there another driver who's not looking? Just those things. So, where are we at with manners? Just the way tone sometimes. I think tone plays a big part. And I've been guilty of tone violating in a lot of areas. But this tone, do we look out for that? Because I think a lot of times we don't mind, just telling it like it is and keeping it real and things like that. But a lot of times that's a poor excuse, I find, for somebody just not knowing how to like conduct themselves and treat other people with some level of decency. Just the coexisting respect that we would want on a general basis, just to be able to tip your head and say, hey, thank you, or things like that. But a lot of times we don't. And are we just too self-absorbed at this point? What has happened in society where we're now at a point where we just don't mind stepping over somebody's feelings, or better yet, stepping on them? And maybe we're not responsible for other people's feelings, but you know what I mean. There's just something about that where you can have a pleasant exchange with somebody and it not be to your detriment. I think it's to our benefit when we have those sort of things where we're looking at that and saying, hey, I made my day better by being able to talk to somebody, and I hope it made their day better. I know I've had plenty of those exchanges, and it didn't cost me anything. So what are our levels of etiquette? If we were going to put something into a school, oh, thank you. What's the username? Dane. You have to. Can you type it in the chat? And yeah, we'll give you a shout out. And I hope you're a follower too. If not, please hit the subscribe. All you guys can hit the subscribe over on YouTube or follow on Facebook and all that stuff. Um, but where are we at? Where are we at with this? Do you have anything that you would say? There's something that like I find that I would like to see more of out of people I interact with. And we're not trying to control people, we're not trying to change them, but just what happened. And maybe I'm living in a fantasy and it was before my time, or maybe I'm not aware of a time before me where I was always given the impression that you dressed a certain way, you addressed people a certain way, you shook hands. I mean, I have my youngest shaking hands with people and looking them in the eye and being able to conversate because I think human connection is gone. And that might be a big part of where we are at when it comes to just being able to disconnect and not really regard the next person, because we look at people more through phones than we actually do in person a lot of times. And especially when it's a stranger, when it's somebody you're not really aware of, I'm sure there's a part of us that shells up. I know I used to do that. Hey, why hello there. Is that Saturn lungs? I like the name. um yeah, thank you. And if you have anything that you like, I don't know, where are we at with this? Because traffic, why is road rage such a thing? We all know we've got someplace to go. We don't really have to like cut each other off or flip each other off and yell out the window and things like that. It's dangerous, as a matter of fact, because what I find is then it just escalates into a needless violence. So where are we at? I mean, just when I look at some things, when I see people just bucking authority, there used to be a respect for somebody. And I understand we can say, well, police and judges or whoever else, they've done enough injustice. I understand that. But that doesn't have to shift who we are. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Um, it doesn't have to shift who we are. Why are we letting what other people do control who we are when it comes to that? At the end of the day, yes, you don't want to always turn the other cheek if you're biblical about it, but at the same time, I don't want to change who I am. I enjoy where I've gotten. I enjoy what I've worked for internally to get to this place, not to let somebody else pull me out of that. Now, I always tell people that I'm a peaceful warrior. You can um, embrace my peace, or you can meet the warrior, because we have to fight to protect our peace. It doesn't come easily, and it won't stay if we don't allow that. We have to protect that sometimes. So the way we address people, tone, things like that. I don't have too many like grand ideas as far as how we're going to change society. I'm not trying to do all of that. I want to hear more from other people. So why are people talking more to AI than? Yeah, okay, this is a great one. So why are people talking more to AI than real people? Yeah, ending 6 years friends over an AI chat box. Like what? Yeah, I mean, we're replacing things. And I did a video that was talking about dating, but I was talking about dating being, we are in a disposable day and age now. And that came from the conveniences of what was supposed to be inanimate objects that were disposable to us. So I made the comparison that once we started going from the old school TV, a lot of us remember where you turn the knob to the remote control. That was a convenience. Then we got from the stove to the microwave. Right. You'll never get that person back. Once you go from the stove to the microwave was an easier way to prepare things. It was faster. And then you could just throw things away. That was the convenience. That was the disposability. Going to the supermarket as opposed to a convenience store, pay for your own things at the pump, all of these. And I think somewhere along the line, our psyche started to get us to the point where we started doing that not only to objects, but to people as well, because it was just so easy to toss something away. And when we are in this day and age of Why replace them with what with AI? Yeah, exactly. Because don't you, that's the point. Saturn Lungs brings up a great point. Like, why are we replacing things with something like AI? But to your point, I think that there's a lot of people that are more comfortable with the robot because a human is going to have some ideas of their own that come through feeling, emotion, experience, rather than just a robot is going to tell you something factual. And most of the time, I'm guessing it's programmed to agree with you or like what you like. So that's an easy way to get around having your feelings validated, in my estimation. Excuse me. Let me take a sip of this. Beverage of the night is cherry, tart cherry, a splash of apple cider vinegar, some lemon, and some beet juice. Yeah, the microwave doesn't know. It's just there to do something fast for you. And a lot of times we learn more by slow cooking. We learn more from the crock pot, from the stove, from the oven than we do from just the microwave itself. So there's a lot to that. I think that that's a great point. But are we teaching the next generation? How are we doing this with our kids? Are we showing them things like manners, like respect? One of the topics that I talked about within the last week or so is children addressing adults. Oh, I like that drink. Ooh, that sounds really good. Saturn Lungs is having a homemade strawberry smoothie with honey. Um, I did one about children talking and addressing adults by their first name without some sort of ma'am, sir. And a lot of people agreed, and a few other people told me that I just had an ego. It was feeding my ego. I don't necessarily think that it is because that's not what I was looking at. I will call most people sir and or ma'am, and I think that it's just a respect that I've learned to pay people that I just like that. Now, the one pushback is that we I that I got was I called a few women ma'am and they didn't like it because they said that it aged them. They were young, but not in the miss category, but not quite, I guess, for their comfort to be ma'am. So I can respect that as well. But when it comes to children, and I mean like 10 and younger, oh yes, yes. Um, like the teacher isn't bro. That's a new one. Calling everybody bro is wild to me. When I hear kids referring to people as bro, as a matter of fact, I think I heard a guy at work, a younger guy, on the phone to a customer while I was there saying bro to somebody. And it was like, you're not talking to a friend. I know that. And it's just like, I think it's habitual. I think it, like you say something so many times, it's just habitual. And a greeting like that, like I've heard guys call guys bro or man. I've heard them call women bro or man. I've heard women call other people bro and man. Like it's just, it's wildfire. But again, calling everyone girl too. It's not one of those things that I would necessarily look at and say, wow, that's a proper greeting. That's to me is far too casual. That is showing up to somebody's dinner event in a tank top and flip flops. That is just saying I'm going to be as casual as I want. And there's something about that when we get into talking about I'm just going to be me. This is me. If you can't accept that or unapologetically, things like that. But it shouldn't be an excuse for bad behavior. It shouldn't be an excuse for poor etiquette. As a matter of fact, what did I have for the meaning of etiquette? A customary code of polite behavior in society or among members of a particular profession or group. So there's some words that go along with that: protocol, good manners, manners, decorum. I like decorum. Form, good form. These are kind of old school statements, but they still hold water. Courtesy, politeness, civility, propriety, formalities, niceties. I've never heard of punctilios. Ooh, I'm going to start using punctilios. I got to look that up. Custom, convention, conformity. I know a lot of people may not like conformity because it feels like I'm being forced to be in some pocket that I don't want to be. But again, I think most of us of a certain age we were raised on some level of understanding that, there's a way that you treat people, and that the way that you can address people and say that, uh, that's all right. That's all right. Keep eating. What's for dinner too? I want to know what's for dinner. I got to eat after this. I probably won't be on long. I just wanted to get some people's thoughts. Um, but yeah, we knew, you knew, and there's an age, and I'm not here to like match generations, Generation X, millennials, and all that stuff. I'm just saying we knew, because across the board, even to this day, there are kids who have parents who know those old school values and teach them, and a lot of people don't, and they just weren't taught that, and that's okay as well. Some people have just bothered to push back and say, that's not what I want to do, and so I'm not going to make my kids do it because I didn't like it. Maybe because your parents were old school and a little too heavy-handed or hard-handed. I know. I remember. You could get free smoke in the in the grocery store if you acted up by your parents. So a lot of people probably have pushed back against that, and that's not what I want to do to my kids. So I'm not going to make them yes sir, no sir, or yes ma'am, anybody, because I don't want to. Fair enough. But it bleeds out into society, and that's just kind of where my question is. Snow crab sounds good. That sounds really good. I'm happy you're here too, and I really appreciate meeting other people. And again, just a simple conversation. And you're bringing up a really good point, Saturn. Online etiquette. I think that's a whole different monster, because at least in person, we have the ability to know that I'm not an advocate for violence, but if you disrespect somebody too much face to face, things can happen. And again, I'm not an advocate for violence. This is just the reality of it. But we have a lot of people that will hide behind things that are mean spirited. You can call it bullying. You can call it just being, disagreeable, whatever. Okay, River, thank you so much. Um, And we all know, because we've all gone through that frustration. I've seen multiple people wish that, like, hey, they could be face to face with the person who said something, or that, you shouldn't be able to say something without having to say it to somebody's face. We've all expressed that or seen it, whether it was posted to us directly or not, or we've just seen it in the chat. There's a lot of times we're like, that person needs to be straightened out. And again, I'm not an advocate for violence. That's not what I'm saying. But we just know that there's some people who have really stepped out of line. Why? Because they feel comfortable hiding behind this screen right here. They feel comfortable hiding behind this screen right here. I'm on two screens. So what's the etiquette? Do we have an etiquette for that? Or is it just okay for people just to be able to say, like, I'm halfway across the world or I'm around the block? You'll never know, so I can say whatever to you. I think that's a big part of it too. This emboldens people to feel like they can say whatever, and then you come across them face to face, or these people come across, and I think that's where a lot of people really, what's the letters FAFO, mess around and find out, because they forget, or they think, well, I've said that to a bunch of people before online. I think I could say it here, and it doesn't work. So it's an interesting thought, but social media etiquette, I think, is definitely different than in place. I'm not talking about people having to know like salad forks and what the course is and things like that. I think that's a whole different level of something. And I'm not downing people who do know salad forks from dinner forks. I think I know at sometimes, but not always. You'd be with your friends, but you're sick, usually out face to face. Yeah. Yeah. When you're in school, when you're at work, all these places, you get to really be um, interactive, humanly interactive. And that's so healthy. That's so positive. Whether you agree or disagree, to be in the view, in context, in conversation that's not this, with somebody else face to face. You get to hear them in a different way. Like, you may even get to smell them. And whether it is, some fabulous cologne or BO, it's still part of the human experience. We're utilizing our senses, not just sight and sound, because we're using a phone, maybe a little bit of touch. But yeah, sometimes, and it's good because human interaction, what is that? That's hugging. That's, sometimes the handshake. That's a lot of different things. Cholo Blanco, how are you, sir? Amen, my brother. I mean, people love talking junk on here, but they would never say it to my face. I wouldn't say it to your face. I would say hello, sir. And but we're good that way. We're good that way. So we have no issues when it comes to that. Great seeing you too, and much love from here to South Carolina. And appreciate you dropping in. So I have a couple messages that are held for review. I don't know what that means. That sounds daunting. And does that mean that somebody's broken the etiquette? Excuse me. Not to mention, is that rude? Drinking, taking a drink, but what I didn't want was to put things in your face like dry mouth and cotton mouth and things like that. So, what are your thoughts on when it comes to this? Facebook Live or Twitch? I don't have Twitch. I am on Facebook Live under the same name as this channel. If you like, I'm everywhere. So, feel free to, we can link up at other places as well. But I definitely think that there's something amiss when it comes to how we have learned to address one another. I think, approach each other far too casually. And I like being comfortable with people, but to casually treat strangers, I don't necessarily go along with that. I do think that there's more. Oh man, my video is useless. Okay, well that's okay, and that this is one of those things. At least I guess you did it with a little bit of etiquette. I don't know. Okay, fair enough, River. Fair enough. But for every person, I didn't see whose name that was. Gibran. I don't know how to pronounce it, and not. I don't want to destroy it, but he thinks the video is useless. No problem. No problem. And regardless if that comes across as something disrespectful or if it's something that they don't particularly like, okay, you're free to speak your mind. And I will just utilize the etiquette that I understand and say, you know what, I can accept that. I know that my content, my voice, my face isn't for everybody to look at, to hear, to understand what I'm talking about. Sometimes I don't understand what I'm talking about, but we keep talking, we keep having these conversations, and that way we get somewhere. But if we just shut each other down, this person says, hey, my puppy is leaving you, your video is useless. Okay, and then and I go back at them, we get nowhere. We get nowhere. I'm going to thank this person for watching because you came onto the channel, you gave it a shot. It's no different than going to a restaurant you've never been to. The service here is terrible. The burrito doesn't look good or whatever, and you leave. But we can at least thank you for coming by. So no problems, no worries when it comes to that. I'm not overly concerned. And it doesn't mean that I'm trying to disparage people or, dismiss them. But if they're not here, they're not here. And we just move on happily and say, this is what it is. This is what happens when you put yourself out there. So I love the comment that Saturn has as far as just saying things like bro. Or, even just using, what about acronyms? We started with IKR, there's BRB, and just chopping down words. I know it was probably something in early Twitter where you only had so many characters, and now we know though, but I see when people are just utilizing like this mangled language. Is that an etiquette? Is that a politeness? Is that something that we go along with? And I'm not talking about your homies. I'm talking about people that you are kind of, in a second, third level of understanding that we're cool with. Jono, how are you, my love? Growth as humans is beautiful. Wish more people would be humble. Humble is a great one. That's a great part of this. I think that when I was talking earlier about the oh, what were you crying for? And you don't have to put it out there, but look, we're with you because we understand. Sometimes being by yourself is hard, but when you're here, you're not alone. So I appreciate you sharing that. Jonna, being more humble, absolutely. And I think that's a good part of where people a lot of times go into that whole I'm just going to be me sort of thing. That's not, there's not a whole lot of humility to that. It's just saying I'm just going to overtalk or overstep or overpower, impose my will upon whatever it is that you're asking, and I'm going to stomp on it before I even have to be addressed about it. And I think we all see a lot of that, and that's not. It's not a good place to be. It's not a very endearing quality for people to want to be around you. People may tolerate you because they are a coworker, they are a neighbor. I mean, they might even be your significant other. But that stuff only lasts so long, and then it turns into, okay, am I accepting this person or am I tolerating them? Because that's a huge piece for me is am I put into a place where I can accept it, which means I am saying I will take this on and say I see that this person has their own way of doing things, and that's fine. I accept that. But when you are forced to deal with somebody on a different level, I look at that as tolerating, and I don't necessarily subscribe that we do that. River. Oh man, I'm sorry about that. That's a hard one. And when you have something like that going on, really just continue to think the positive. Utilize what communication tools you have if you can when it comes to just being on the phone, video conversations, things like that. I hope that it all turns out well for everybody because that's a tough place to be in, and a lot of people have been in that circumstance. So, again, I appreciate you sharing because those are tough things to be dealing with, and I think that, man, I understand. I understand why you're crying, and I understand why those things are heavy on you right now. But keep your positive spirit. Keep your positive spirit, and things will work out the way they have to. But it may not always be how we want them to. But we are strong enough to persevere, and you still have your girlfriend and other people around you, I'm sure, that love and care for you. So please stay that route. Happened a couple days ago. Okay, I'm guessing or hoping that he's doing better, or at least is in care. So get there when you can, and definitely understand that again you have a circle here, if nothing else, to be able to reach out and just and chat. So again, I'm on Facebook as well. You can find me under the same name if you ever want to just inbox and chat. Cholo is back. Jana, your personal opinion is that it's laziness. Yeah, laziness. Now, I like a good acronym, but I like to have it have some context, not just the BRB or things like that. But yeah, I think that there are laziness and acronyms. Yeah, they were SOS. That's the classic. That's the like the original acronym for something else. So let's see, Cholo, you're so right. People don't want to have conversations anymore. It has become a society where if you differ opinion, we can't be friends. Yeah, that's right. That's right. If we and is that an etiquette in itself? Because again, going back to the etiquette meaning, it was a customary code of polite behavior. So we can be polite when it comes to not agreeing on things and not attacking each other. I get it. And in the last 10 years, there has been divide over ethnicity, there's been divide over gender, there's been divide over sexual orientation, legislation, political parties, all of that stuff. And you would think we'd have learned by now that we should have the ability to say, you know what, I've seen everything else about this person, and on some level, I know that it's tribalism. I can't always say like I fully understand what happens in the minds of people who are staunch supporters of the Me Too movement. I support it, but I've never gone through what a lot of the survivors and victims have gone through. I hope that makes sense. And so when it comes to that, it might look like I don't care as much. So I'm trying to use that politeness, that etiquette, that empathy and understanding to put at least as much of that into their lap as possible to say, look, I'm there. There's just some things I don't understand. And I've seen a lot of places on social media and in person, to Cholo's point, that when you ask a question, whether he asks me as a non-black man or Jonna asks me a question as male to female, we can't jump down each other's throats. Like, that person is supposed to know. They're asking for a reason. And ask, here's an acronym, Jonna, and I made this one up. Ask. Always seek knowledge. Always seek knowledge. Ask. And that's how we learn. But we can't just start shutting people down because they somehow don't understand what we've been through. It's new to them, so we have to explain it. That's how we become an ambassador. That's how that, let me go back to the meaning. That's how that customary code of polite behavior in society or among members of a particular profession or group. Look at yourself as a motivational speaker when people are saying these sort of things and asking these sort of questions. You at that moment are a teacher. You're a motivational speaker. You are a lot of things that they didn't have before. So the way you answer it, whether it is with some etiquette or whether it's just absolute dismay for them not knowing, that's going to shape how that person themselves now views our entire group. If I ask Jonna a question and she jumps down my throat like I'm some stupid man, and well, guess what my response next time I see a discussion regarding women is about? Most of the time, for a lot of us, it's going to be a little less supportive than it was before. If she asked me a question about Black Lives Matter or anything across the board race related, and I get into her like, you dumb white woman, well, what's her support system for me going to be, or the next person? Because we've soured that experience. Saturns, have a great Thanksgiving, and I appreciate the sub too. But hey, do your thing, and I really wish the best for you and your girlfriend's father and both families, just in general. I appreciate you stopping by, and yeah, I don't get live often, but I will definitely do that, and we'll chit chat it up. Thank you, Jonna, because I'm working on some acronyms as well that aren't just they're meant to build and learn from, not just convey a very lazy message. To your point, I wonder if we can do one for lazy. Um, yeah, we have to figure that out. I always try to see when somebody asks me a question as an educational moment. Yes, this woman is brilliant, and I've known her for years, and I'm proud to say that I love her. This is teachable moments. When somebody asks you these questions, these are teachable moments. It's not a moment to condescend. It's not a moment, well, if you Google it, or you do realize. That's one of my favorites, because when we get to those snooty, snarky answers, it's one of those things like, it's bad form. And that was one of the etiquette things. Guys on YouTube, my phone is about to die here very shortly. Feel free to find me on Facebook, Vincent, Alfonzo, Jamal. I just don't want anybody to get cut off and them not, realize that there's another stream going on. So I'm going to let it die, but just so and I thank everybody who's been watching. Yeah, we definitely have the ability to teach, because I have knowledge that you don't. You have knowledge that I don't. And a lot of that is solely based off of experience in life when it comes to certain things. And it doesn't have to be through demographic divide as far as ethnicities, religions, things like that. You just might know how to fix a tire and I don't. You just might know certain things. So in that moment, think of, what don't I know? And if I ask somebody, would I want them to respond like I was a complete dullard? No, that's when okay, let me talk you through it. And I'm not trying to talk down to you, but I'm going to break it down to be as simple as if you just came from the moon and don't speak a lick of language or understand. Walk people through it step by step. It may seem tedious, and just remember to let them know, look, I'm not trying to, act like you don't know anything, but we want our teachers to give us every step of the way. We want all of those little blanks filled in, so it's a smooth path. That's what we're looking at. Yes, yes, Cholo. The Cholo just saw the video of me with my neighbor, and my neighbor basically, I was standing outside, and he walked by with his dog, and he threw his cigarette butt in the street, but it was in front of my curb. And I asked him, I said, "Hey, would you mind not doing that?" And he immediately flew into, yeah, he immediately flew into um, telling me to get a job. He called me an a hole. Well, first he started with calling out the Lord, JC and all that stuff, and um, you know, my thing was he told me to get a job. I said, "You get a job, pick it up." I don't. Even looking back, there's always ways I feel like I can do things better, but I won't kick myself for the way that it went because it was an honest question. Look, can you pick that up? I want the beautification of the neighborhood. I wouldn't do it in front of your house. Etiquette. It's an exchange when we're talking about how we are working within the group, in society. Sorry, I got to get another drink. I, I'm, I'm just running off of the mouth here. So, thank you. Yeah, the neighbor was rude. The neighbor was rude. I will give it to you. He was a crabby old man. And in that moment, this is not to pat myself on the back, but the etiquette for me in that moment was not to film his face. He didn't give any sort of consent to that, and he wasn't committing a crime that needed to have him identified. That was just more of one of those things where we can say, hey, this is a teachable moment, to John's point. So a lot of times we can roll out what etiquette can look like or what it doesn't look like in a lot of cases when it comes down to that. So I'm definitely oh, you're very welcome, man. I mean, civility is one of the things. I think that was part of the etiquette meaning. Definitely being civil. I would throw that in there. As a matter of fact, there's civility. So you nailed it right on. But I'm still looking for punctilios. Is that am I saying that? Cholo, Jana, have you heard of the word punctilios? Because it's a new word to me, and I love hearing it. Punctilios. It sounds like it's I don't know. It sounds I don't know almost French, Spanish, or exotic. Maybe that's the word. Um, it is. It's quicker for people to get mad. Cholo, you're absolutely